Yo, so I'm back again with another video for you, and this week I'm talking about Sam Sulek at his latest show. Did he deserve to win, and did he deserve to take home his pro card? If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel down below and hit the bell button and we'll get straight into it. Last week I went over his previous show before the Arnold's, and we discussed whether it was his following that actually got him the win or not, because I had a lot of people talking about that to me, and I said that he actually deserved it. I broke down each pose. If you haven't seen that video, go and check that out first. Let's get straight into this one. So I honestly thought that this was going to be exactly the same as the first one, where people was doubting because he's got a huge following that's why he won, and he was going to smash out of the water. But having looked at this, I've kind of changed my opinion. Oh my God! Let's go for each pose. So the front relax, which is the first pose that you do when you get on stage. Competitors, once again, this is the overalls for the classic at the Arnold's, which is the second biggest show in the world to be able to win, okay? And this is to fight to become a pro bodybuilder, which is a huge statement. So everyone is going to be completely dialed. As you can see, the guy on the far right is probably the smallest person on the stage, however, has a very classic physique. In the middle, again, slightly bigger, but still has that really classic physique. So in comparison to the opens, it isn't just about size and coming in full, okay? The classic has always been about having the small waist, the wide shoulders, and having a really aesthetic physique, while still coming in very conditioned and having good muscularity. That's literally the reason that the classic division was made, because the sport ended up just going for mass monsters and just promoted size over everything. Here, you can see Sam is still shredded, and he's probably the biggest person on that stage. But in my opinion, especially for classic, it's not always just about the size. That guy in the middle, just for reference, he ended up coming second to Sam. Sam was first, and the guy on the far right came third. See, I agree with the far right being third because he is slightly less muscular, but with a still very good physique and a classic look about him, as well as the guy in the middle. However, in this front relaxed pose, I would give it to the guy in the center, because you can see every single detail. Every one of them up on stage is completely shredded, but you can see every one of his detail, even in that front relaxed. His obliques are popping out in comparison to Sam's, which looks a little bit washed out. The legs, again, some people are saying, yeah, it's because Sam Sulek isn't posing his adductors very well as he could be, but that comes into play. You are judged on how well you are showing your physique. For example, Coach Greg, which is one of the biggest influencers in the fitness industry, and he does a whole heap of videos judging people and breaking things down. There's a lot of natty nights. Everybody knows him.
Really want to burn some calories and make a difference?
He broke down this and gave his honest opinion and said that Sam won, okay? And one of the things that he said was Sam has the shreds in his legs, but he just wasn't posing them as well as he could do. But again, that is part of it though. If you're not posing it as well as you should do, then you can't be judged on that. Do you know what I mean? You have to take that into consideration, and that is part of the overall package. So I would give this shot to the guy in the center. On to the side relax. Again, this is not a bad shot from all of these competitors, but immediately my eyes are drawn to the guy in the center because of the midsection is completely shredded. You can see every single one of his abs, even in this rubbish quality photos from the show, you can still see that that guy is completely peeled and probably the most conditioned person on that stage. Also, in this pose, the right guy and the middle guy are posing it perfectly. They're broadening right out, and the width of their shoulders is actually bigger than Sam's. Sam's the biggest person on stage, but yet in this side relax, as you can see, he isn't showing it off as well. That left shoulder can be brought way more around to the left side. His head needs to be facing forwards, which again is a pickup point. When I've competed in the past, if someone turns their head, the show conductors will actually be telling the competitors, face your head forwards, which obviously they wasn't doing in this case. And could it be because they all know who Sam is and they don't want to be saying it to him? Possibly, I don't know. This is not me being biased. I'm now giving this pose to the guy in the middle once again. And you can see the shreds in his legs. Sam's legs don't have any shreds from this shot on the side. It's very washed out. So onto the back, which is arguably one of Sam's biggest advantages. He has a phenomenal back and often wins shots, especially with shots like a back double bicep or a back lat spread. He normally dominates. But in this, again, I would have to give it to that person in the middle because the shape, for one, is a perfect X-frame. He has a tiny waist, he has wide shoulders, his delts are absolutely huge, they're popping out rounded over, and he has so much more conditioning. Once again, in this crappy footage, you can see the conditioning over Sam Sulek. Yes, Sam Sulek has more muscle, but again, classic has not always been about the biggest person on the stage. It's been about the conditioning, the shape, and the aesthetic physique, and also the posing. There's a close-up, and if you are sitting at home telling me you still think Sam wins this pose, which again is arguably his most dominating pose, you have to think again. You can see every single detail in that back of the person that is in the middle there, from the bottom all the way up to the top. The Christmas tree and the hamstrings and the glutes are absolutely shredded. Yes, Sam's hamstrings have got some definition, but nowhere near as much as the guy in the center. Right, boom. Now on to the flex posing. I also have to mention that Coach Greg, when he broke down this and they were going through the poses, obviously it was very hard for him to say that Sam was going to win that back relax. He actually stated that the rear relaxed pose, which is a mandatory pose by the way, isn't really a pose.
Bruh.
When he knows that it is a pose. He's been doing it for years. He's been competing and doing that pose for years. It's a mandatory pose. It's one of the first mandatory poses that you need to do and that you're judged on. Now, onto the front double bicep, which again is probably, if the rear double bicep isn't Sam's strongest point, the front double bicep definitely is. So, boom, here we are. Amazing front double bicep from Sam yet again. He's got a wicked X frame. He has big arms, big shoulders, and he has probably got, again, the most muscle out of everyone on that stage. But it was said that Sam has a smaller waist than the other two. For one, the guy on the right has a wicked shape in this front double bicep, and he has definitely got the smallest waist. I'm sorry, like, if anybody's sitting at home going, yeah, Sam definitely got the smallest waist, from this picture, how? They're all fully in the pose right now. The guy on the right has the smallest waist. Then it goes the guy in the middle having the smallest waist. Then it is Sam, okay? The guy in the middle has got a wicked shape in this, and you can see all of his shreds in his quads, all the way up through his abductors, and you can't see that in Sam's pose, unfortunately. This cannot go to Sam if you cannot see as much shreds onto the side chest. Now, this is where things change slightly. I'll tell you my prediction on this pose and then tell you why. So, boom, I'd say Sam Sulek probably wins this pose. Bam, there he is. I'm not being biased and saying that everyone beats him in every single pose. In this pose, I'd say Sam actually beats the other two, because on the far right, he hasn't got as much muscle mass to be able to fill them gaps, and he's got a big gap in between his arm there, making him look shallow. However, the guy on the far right, his legs actually outpower the other two. So for leg wise, the guy on the far right actually wins, but it's not about just the legs in this pose, as we know. So the guy in the middle, good legs, not as good as the one on the right, but hasn't got as much fullness in the top half like Sam has. Sam looks super wide in this, and he's obviously practiced that side chest a hell of a lot. This fullness that he has actually helped him within this pose, because it makes him look that much bigger. Plus, his legs in this actually do look pretty shredded in comparison to some of the other poses. So I'll give this one to Sam. On to the back double bicep, which I have mentioned a few times, and boom, yeah, Sam is looking absolutely phenomenal in this. He's wide, his shoulders are big, his arms are big, and his waist is small. Not as small as the other two, in my opinion, but his waist is small. Now, the guy in the middle, wicked conditioning, small waist, wide shoulders, not as much muscle mass as Sam, so I'm like, oh, okay, looking at that. The guy on the far right, I'm kind of dismissing out of this because, in my opinion, it is between Sam and this second place here. Now we'll look at the legs, because it's a bit tight between the upper half, in my opinion. The legs ain't nowhere near as shredded as the guy in the center. The glutes, yeah, okay, Sam's trunks. You can see in some other shots, like the side chest, for example, Sam's glutes are showing, but he's not flexing them, and they haven't got the striations, even when he's trying to flex them, as the guy in the middle does. So it's not all just about, oh yeah, he's covered them up with his shorts. And even if it was because he's covered them up with his shorts, again, that plays into the judging. Okay, if you have them shorts which you've covered up and you've chosen to cover up more on, then that's on you. That's not on any of the other competitors. And it's like, oh yeah, but he's got them, but he's just hiding them up. No, that's not how it works. So this one is a tough one. I don't know which one I would choose between the conditioning in the middle. I want to say the conditioning in the middle because, again, look at the legs in comparison, and even look at the upper half. the rear delts, everything going into it. Yeah, I'm going to have to say it. It's the one in the middle for me. And here, onto the last pose that I'm going to be speaking about, which is the abs and thighs. Boom. All great. Absolutely fantastic. Sam's vacuum is mega. But the conditioning in the legs, when he does this vacuum, he's just tilting his hips forwards. It's creating a deeper vacuum, which looks really good. But it makes it so hard to be able to flex all of your quads and show off your abductors. Because I too, when I go on stage, I do a deep vacuum. And I know for a fact that it genuinely makes it so hard to show off your quad definition as well. But that's what he's chosen to do there. And that's allowed then the legs of the other two to look a lot better, especially for that second place. His legs are flexed all the way from the abductors right at the top there. You can see that line going the whole way down. So again, it's a tough one because I like the classic look of the vacuum, but the shreds should win competitions. Conditioning should win shows, which is again something that Greg Doucette has said for years. I've been following him for maybe 10 years, and he's always said, especially for classic, that conditioning wins shows. It's not fullness and it's not muscle, it's the conditioning that you bring and the way that you show it off. Now, on this video, he's completely backpedaled on that, and he said that Sam's won pretty much every one of their poses that we've just looked at there, even though he's clearly not as conditioned as the guy that took second. So, there it is. There's my verdict. I don't think that Sam actually should have taken that first place. I think second place should have been first in this one. But in the first show, he most definitely won. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below, and I'll see you next time. Boom.